Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. I'm here with my boy Jonathan Tran,
What's going on, guys?
and we are excited to talk about the Texas Longhorns. This will be our 2018 season preview. John, I am super excited just to talk ball with you. And
I've been counting down the days.
I know, man. I know, man. September 1st, right around the corner, FedEx Field against the Maryland Terrapins. So before we get into we will touch on the Maryland game and just some of our thoughts. We will be giving win-loss predictions. John and I have some notes here, things we'll be looking to discuss and run down. Earlier this week, obviously, they came out with the depth chart. But we're actually going to start off with the Texas quarterbacks. One of the things I know, right? When you have the history that we've had with the quarterback position since Colt McCoy went down in the Alabama game, that is always going to be the talk of the town in Austin. And I'll start off with just your opinion, Jonathan. Sam Ehlinger winning the job over Shane Buechele. Your opinions?
Not shocked at all. I went to the bowl game, the Texas Bowl, and both of them actually look really good. Shane Buechele even was stepping up in the pocket, which impressed me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But when he got hurt, I saw something else in Ehlinger, that he is a winner. I mean, he willed that team on drives when we needed it, got first downs when we needed it, and he's just a big game player. I mean, I even saw him in USC, and some of the throws he's making, I was shocked that the freshman player was making.
Yeah, biggest thing about USC was the moment wasn't too big for him.
No, and he's got
Rose Bowl situation, in that Coliseum, and national stage night game, and he took his team to double OT. So
he definitely has that no back down attitude. I'll never forget the little tweets he's going back and forth, the little subtweets with
Orlando Brown. Yeah.
And when Orlando Brown came back at him, he was ready right away. He goes, "Oh, that was as fast as your 40 times." So thank you.
Just my take on it. Best fit for the offense, guys. I mean, you look at what Tom Herman wants to do, what he's done historically. Just the lineage he comes from with Urban Meyer going back to Florida, what they did at Ohio State. You have to have that mobility, and I think Sam Ehlinger won this job. Leadership components and all the intangibles that John touched on are important, but he also won this job because of his legs. Mm-hmm. His ability to move around, his ability to make plays. The second half of the Oklahoma game was, sandlot football, and that's what he's great at. What you're hoping to see is that he's more polished from the pocket. He's more accurate, and quite frankly, he's a better decision maker. Had a lot of issues with decision making at the end of games where he got a little too, never afraid, but just got, too excited, too hyped, trying to make a play, and sometimes hurt his team. Now as a sophomore with all those extra reps, and hopefully healthy, we're going to look to see that improvement. Now, moving on just to his coach, is Tim Beck, quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. Tim Beck, I thought, had a very interesting press conference earlier this week. They asked him, and we kind of touched on this earlier, what's your biggest area of concern for this offense, for this UT offense? And to my surprise, he said he has no concerns. I hope people listen to that. He said he has no concerns. He said if they carry over what they've been doing in practices of the games, they'll be good to go. They won their last scrimmage allegedly against the defense, who we all hold in a very high regard. What are your thoughts on the pressure on Tim Beck this year? I know a lot of people are Tom Herman's been getting a lot of questions about the play calling, and everybody wants to know
who's calling the plays.
Exactly.
And I think his quote was, "Texas calls the plays" or something.
Yeah, we all call the play.
Yeah, and which isn't true, but it is a political thing to say. I honestly think if the O-line stays healthy and they have the repetitions and the experience now, I think. We weren't a good offense at all last year.
No, that's why they went out and got Herman.
Yeah, it's just going to be exponentially better. And I feel very confident if the coach is going to come forward with a confident statement as that it says, nothing concerns me. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I want to see it. I want to see the product on the field. But that's just refreshing to hear that for the first time in a while that our offense is going to be smooth.
You guys all know how critical I've been of Tim Beck. I was critical of the hire. Never liked what I saw at Nebraska or Ohio State. But I do think that this is going to be more of a Tom Herman-led offense schematically and from a adjustment standpoint. Also, how the running backs are featured. You cited the improvement on the offensive line. I know you feel like they're legitimately too deep going into the season.
I do.
Tim Beck also cited that he believes he has 4 runners in the running back room, which is exciting for us to hear as well, with the addition of Keontae Ingram and Trey Watson, the Cal transfers, coming in and winning the running back job over Daniel Young, who had a very good bowl game. I think that's big. But I also think looking at how the running backs were used at Houston with Duke Catalan and him catching a whole bunch of passes out of the backfield.
Who, by the way, was a Texas signing.
Who was exactly. I see Trey Watson being kind of like that Duke Catalan type guy.
He's a 1,000-yard rusher, right?
I don't think he ran, but I think he was like.
Career yardage.
Oh yeah, career yardage.
More yardage than all the other running
and
backs.
he caught 40, 50 balls.
Okay.
Over at Houston, so I see Trey Watson being utilized like that. I still see them utilizing Daniel Young, more of the kind of a sledgehammer type deal, and then obviously trying to mix in Keontae Ingram, who's the future and hopefully will be that splash player. But for them to say they have 4 running backs deep, moving on from the Chris Warrens and the Kyle Porters of the world. Kyle Porter, who's still there, but he's not even listed on the depth chart. So that just tells you how much better they feel about their running back room, which was another area of concern amongst Texas fans. In terms of impact freshmen and people, just new faces, transfers included, who are you most excited about seeing?
I'm excited about seeing the young defensive backs. I know the only defensive player that's a freshman that made the starting lineup was Caden Stearns, and I saw him in he's got the lineage. I know his brother was a professional. He looked the part definitely in the
By the way, guys, if y'all watched our UT spring preview, we told you in that preview, player that was most ready to get on the field was Caden Stearns. Mm-hmm. If you saw the All-American Bowl and all that type of stuff, you knew he looks like a Division I starting safety right now. Mm-hmm.
So that was a big hole that we were going to be filling was Deshaun Elliott, and he's long, lean, and athletic. What more could you ask for in a defensive back? And he's a ball hawk too. Yeah. So that's the person I'm looking forward to seeing.
And to your point, B.J. Foster as well as Anthony Cook are also listed on the 2 deep. Mm-hmm. So obviously the coaches have been impressed with their development. I think it's real because you look at the transfers that happened. Mm-hmm. John Bonney, Eric Cuffey.
Who was a 3-year starter too.
Yeah.
John Bonney,
so obviously those guys saw the writing on the wall as well with these younger guys. From my standpoint, Calvin Anderson, left tackle, coming in as a transfer. We already mentioned Trey Watson, but Calvin Anderson might be the most important player on the offense if you think about it. Replacing a Connor Williams who didn't play very much last year, and y'all saw how much we struggled at that left tackle position, trying to platoon bodies in there. If they, with the addition of Herman and Calvin Anderson, we're hoping, and for his sake, it's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship. He's hopefully going to buy us some time to get the younger tackles ready, and he can kind of get his stock up for the NFL, and hopefully be draftable next year. So excited for him. Mm-hmm. One guy I'm going to throw out a sleeper here is Deshaun Jameson. Who was not as highly ballyhooed recruit as a Caden Stearns or Anthony Cook, but he was actually a part of that defensive back group that came in. Their expectation was for him to play slot corner, and I believe I think he was one of the guys that came from Lamar High School. Mm-hmm. But he didn't really play offense in high school, but he's listed as our second team slot receiver, which to me is amazing. And Tom Herman has had nothing but wonderful things to say about his development, and they think he's a playmaker that can potentially play both ways. and somebody that could potentially help in the return game. Arguably the fastest guy on the team with John Burt and the Devin Duvernays of the world. So just as a sleeper for you guys to, throw out there, Deshaun Jameson is a guy I'm looking out for because we're going to need some return help. We lost Reggie Hemphill Maps, unfortunately, who, he returned a punt for a touchdown in the Maryland game. But some of these young guys to step up. I just mentioned Maryland. Let's go into just our thoughts this weekend. First off, our condolences to Jordan McNair, the young man who passed away in the off-season conditioning program. Very serious situation. Obviously, a lot of their coaches, strength and conditioning, and a lot of folks have been suspended or put on leave. And I'm not going to get into the whole politics and all the stuff behind it. Obviously, they're diving in and handling the situation. But from how it relates to Texas and what we'll potentially see at FedEx Field on Saturday, we're getting a wounded animal, but wounded animals are very, very dangerous. And this could be a rallying point for Maryland. As Todd Orlando pointed out, we don't really know what we're going to see. Matt Canada's taken over, who was at LSU last year. So just how do you feel about where this team is at without seeing them and just listening to the coaches and the coaches feeling optimistic going into a very big Maryland game for the opener?
Well, I honestly, if they can't get up for this game, they're playing in an NFL stadium. They're playing against a team that basically kicked them in the mouth when they had all this hype going into the season. And they're playing a team that they should just absolutely dominate from the get-go. So, if they can't get up for that, we're going to have a lot
we have a lot more things to worry about.
Yeah,
I agree.
And, but from all the points that we made, that the offense feels confident, which, we haven't really spoken of a confident offensive coordinator in a long time. Even when Charlie Strong hired that guy from Tulsa.
Oh yeah, Sterling
Gilbert.
Yeah, Sterling Gilbert.
He came off as a confident coach, but he never.
He had never called plays before either.
He never. And for them to come forward and say, "We have no worries,"
that's a very strong statement.
Yeah. So I feel confident in that aspect. So if we can't get up to play this team, that's what I'm waiting for. I just can't wait for that. I just can't wait to see it.
And look, guys, there's some NFL talent on Maryland's roster. Don't get it twisted.
Even
transfers. Byron Coward coming in on the defensive line, who was a 5-star, top 5 overall recruit at Auburn. If any of y'all remember him or follow recruiting, he's now at Maryland, and they've talked big things. They've been talking him up. Melvin Anamunam, defensive end, who's potentially a top day 2 pick next year. Kasim Hill is probably going to start at quarterback. Just with their new scheme and him being a better passer, he came in and dotted us up a couple times before he got injured. And then the running back ran for $150. He's back, and we know this. They're going to do a lot of pre-snap motion. Now we don't have to worry about DJ Moore mossing people this year. Fortunately, he's
already getting paid right now. He's getting paid. So
but they're going to do the confusion, and that was Todd Orlando's worst game. It was his first game, and I think it was kind of the best thing that happened to them because that was kind of they did the Band of Brothers thing after that and said never again. So we get to see 1 year later. How do you handle a funky scheme like that? Some of the things they're going to do is going to be very similar to what Kansas State does with their quarterback power and how they utilize their running backs, very physical at the point of attack. Do they have the athletes and the personnel that a Texas does? Absolutely not. But and with the coaching thing, that's kind of the weird aspect too. So we'll see. I do expect them to handle business and pull away in the second half of the Maryland game. We will do our season predictions here, but I think we both feel comfortable that they're going to pull through against Maryland. We'll do a Maryland recap and break each week. We'll break down the games.
I'm still nervous because if we do lose, it's a long season. But I do feel confident.
Right. No, and Tom Herman, they've preached now 2 off seasons in a row 1-0. At some point, guys have to stop operating on faith and start operating on results. And if that's the moniker of your program, you have to live up to that, right? We have a couple more things we want to discuss, and then we'll wrap up with our predictions. What are you most excited about for this season, from a UT perspective?
I'm excited to see another year under Tom Herman. Everyone's talked about how great of a football mind he is, and that was one of the things that I always wanted Charlie Strong to accomplish. That's take that next step.
Sure.
A year later, and that next step never really happened.
Yeah, never materialized.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking to see those close games that we lost last year, how we handle those situations now, and how the in-game presence that the coaching will take effect for. That's what I'm looking for.
For me, and just to echo your point, because I think that's really powerful, just about Tom Herman's development. He's been in the news a lot for a lot of different things, and we'll touch on that kind of at the end of the video. But I remember going back to the 2016 season with Charlie Strong, and I really did think that was going to be our breakthrough year. Even after the Notre Dame opener and us, the whole Texas is back, that whole thing, and it seems like it turned into a curse. And just the excitement, I'm starting to feel that type of energy again. And I know we've kind of been snake bitten as a fan base. So hopefully Tom Herman really does live up to that billing, to your point. For me, from an excitement standpoint, I'm excited about Sam Ehlinger. I know we touched a lot about the quarterbacks, but, ever since Colt McCoy went down to Marcel Darius in that national championship game, 9 years ago now, almost 9 years ago, we've been down from a quarterback perspective. We've had flashes with the David Ashes and Shane Buechele.
David Ash, I think, would have been a good quarterback.
Yeah, he was getting there.
Yeah, I think
but, it seems like this guy really is a leader. When I say this guy, I'm talking about Sam Ehlinger. But now we have to see the development and the production on the field. The other guy I'm excited about, I know we haven't touched too much about the defense, because we feel good about Todd Orlando. We feel good about, even though we had a lot of guys go to the league, which is a good thing, guys. It's always good when you're sending people to the league. It's going to help in recruiting, which it did in this 2018 cycle. I feel good about Gary Johnson. I think he's going to be an all Big 12 performer. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. I saw some really good things from him in the bowl game, even before the bowl game. He to me, just instinctive. And plays as fast as his time speed.
Yes.
Because you see a lot of dudes out here running 4.4, but they don't play like they run. They don't
straight
run
line speed.
Yeah,
straight line speed. They're not
but
in-game speed.
he reacts and he hits. He's see ball, hit ball. So I'm really, really excited about Gary Johnson. Now, with excitement, we have to also go into our areas of concern. For me, my biggest area of concern is going to be special teams. Anytime you're going to come out with a potentially freshman kicker and a freshman punter, Michael Dixon, the punt god, my man tearing it up in Seattle. We are so proud of him. But all us UT fans, everybody that covers this team, watch this team, he was the MVP of the bowl game, probably the MVP of the season.
Yeah.
It's not even that I think his cousin is not going to be a good punter. I mean, Michael Dixon, he wasn't like that day one 2015 when he got here as a freshman. I mean, the guy's just going to have to adjust to the atmosphere of college football, 100,000 people kicking in front of him. I think once that guy gets over it, because I did see some good things from him in the spring game, but just the advantage we had with our defense of him always punting the ball at the 3-yard line and stuff. So many times. I mean, you're losing that field position advantage, which coaches absolutely rave about. Those of you who have played.
That's why Steve, Coach Carroll.
Pete Carroll, yeah.
Pete Carroll. I'm thinking the office guy. Coach Carroll traded up to pick him, and they're in love with him there. So,
they are. So, and then the kicking game, how many games you think kicking cost us last season alone?
I mean, what was our average? It was around 4 points or something like that.
Yeah.
Average loss.
Just blown field goals. So I mean, even extra points at times, having issues with that, and that's something that's crept over from the Charlie Strong era. Even in the return game, I know I'm excited about to see Deshaun Jameson. I know he's not going to start off. I think Brandon Jones is going to be our starting punt returner, and then they have Humphrey on kickoff. But Reggie Hempel Maps was a pretty good return man last year. Actually, house one in the Maryland game. So I'm really, really concerned all around about special teams. In a conference and in a league where there's not a lot of margin for error, special teams is always the difference. That's why us and those who are smart football fans respect Kansas State so much, because they always A1 on their special teams. Virginia Tech always A1. Like these teams that make that's their brand. I would hope that Texas can one day get to that point, because we used to be A1 with our special teams, the Justin Tucker days, Hunter Lawrence.
At one point, for a 10-year stretch, we were leading the nation in blocked kicks in special teams.
And guys used to they prided, like the guys used as Rod Babers talks about all the time on the radio. Like guys used to jump up there and beg to get on punt block. Let me go get one, coach.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
they have to get back to that mentality, and that's also around the time when Texas made their run and ultimately built up a team to go and win a national championship. Started with special teams, guys. For you, what's the biggest area of concern?
Mine is, it's going to probably throw you off, but it's going to be the defensive front side.
Whoa, unpopular opinion alert.
The only reason why is I thought a lot of the way our defense ran last year, it ran through first Puna Ford, taking up double teams and allowing our linebackers
in the middle
to read the quarterback and also the running back. I don't know if we have that guy there yet or developed yet.
You don't feel that way? You don't feel Chris Nelson can be 80% of that?
I do, but I'm not saying that he's not going to be. It's a concerning point for me.
Gotcha.
And I think from Gary Johnson is a stud. I think he's going to be a top 3 round pick in the NFL draft. And I think he's going to get guaranteed money. That's right. But the linebackers after him, I'm not 100% sold on.
Right. Anthony Willer, by the way, guys, will be serving.
That's going to be a big point. And
Serving
plus, McCullough, I think McCullough was hurt too a little bit.
Not practicing.
And then that young freshman,
he's out too,
from Louisiana.
That came from IMG. Yeah.
They
may have to move over Malcolm Roach for a little bit, to be honest with you. They're thin. They're very, very thin at linebacker. Even the other kid we signed, Overshawn, got hurt.
Everyone's preaching about we're gonna have the best D line, but I mean I see our DNs being very good and very effective.
Hager and Amina.
But right up the middle, I mean, it's gonna be a tough point right there for me to see until I see them.
That's valid, because you have Chris Nelson there, and then you have Gerald Wilbon is listed as a second team nose tackle who hasn't played very much. Haven't seen a whole lot out of him. Then you have guys like Taquan Graham and Chisholm who aren't true. They're
they're undersized.
Yeah, they're very undersized. So I think that's very valid. But I trust Todd Orlando. I trust that.
I do. But until I see it, I'm just.
Gotcha.
I want to.
And he's probably the biggest Puna Ford fan.
I am, man.
He loves Puna.
The kid just keeps his mouth shut, works, and puts up numbers, and he doesn't get respect for it. I mean, he gets drafted. Yeah,
and he might make. Speaking of Seattle, he might make their 53-man roster. They feel good about him too. They
put up a stat about him is that he's putting up the defensive win shares the most on the defensive line. So I mean, he's a rookie doing that. So,
right.
I mean, the guy. He made our defense drive. Yeah. He was the driver of our defense last year.
So let's get into our predictions.
Gotcha.
We have the schedule up and everything, guys. So I'll let you start off and I'll chime in.
We both think that Maryland's going to win.
Yes.
I think we're both comfortable saying Tulsa's going to win.
Yes.
USC, I feel that they're going to have a revenge, especially against a true freshman quarterback. And I think the heat aspect is going to wear on their team a little bit because it's still 7. It's going to be 7 p.m., but it's still going to be 100 degrees 7 p.m. and then it'll go into the night. I think that's going to wear on them throughout the night, unlike what they're used to. Where Southern California was gorgeous when we went there.
So the season is what, 8.5 over under 8.5.
Yeah, that's what Vegas has us as.
And where are you at on that?
I'm picking 9-3.
Okay. Where do you 9-3? So I'm at 8-4. So we're pretty close on where we see this team. We both have him improving. He has him improving a little bit more from 7-6. I have him improving to 8-4, not including the bowl game, obviously. So that could potentially be 9-4 or 10-3, because we always want our teams to win the bowl game. But I think we both think they're going to lose to Kansas State in Manhattan.
Yeah,
because we've never seen it happen in our lifetime.
So, I'm just going to mark that down as a loss until I could.
And I think I think we both have them losing to West Virginia, even though that game is in Austin. Just the returning, and I still have to do my Heisman video, but the firepower that West Virginia is going to have.
Will Greer is the best quarterback in the Big 12 right now. Possibly could be one of the best in the nation. And the weapons he has around him, he might have the Bolitnikoff winner on his team, and 2 other really good wide receivers. And I don't.
That's a lot to deal with.
I don't know if we'll be able to keep up with him scoring wise.
I see. So the big part of this season, assuming we get past Maryland and Tulsa, which if all this stuff is null and void if they mess that up.
Yeah.
But assuming they get past Maryland, Tulsa, they're 2-0. The big stretch is going to be a 4-week stretch of USC, then TCU, then Kansas State, and going into the Red River Shootout against OU. The reason why I have them at 4 is I think they're gonna go 2-4 in that stretch, right. And I think that's where we defer. But we both have them. We both see improvement. I like this team. I don't love this team, but I see the upside there, and I see what they're developing. I still think they're a year away overall, just from a talent perspective. The recruiting classes are coming. They're getting these kids. But I see it happening. I couldn't do this video without touching on the Tom Herman Ohio State drama that is going on. And I think a lot of this ties into recruiting, to be honest with you. Tom Herman, last year after they lost to Maryland, some would say he threw the players under the bus. And if you remember, who was the first person to speak up and kind of throw shade at Tom? It was
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. And I think that had a lot to do with the Garrett Wilson kid out of Lake Travis. For those of you who don't know, Garrett Wilson is class of 2019, 5-star wide receiver from Lake Travis. And his final 2 schools were Ohio State and Texas. Mm-hmm. And at the time, he was undecided, and I think that was at the time I couldn't figure out, like, why would Urban Meyer just say, like, why would he, like, a guy that helped him win a national championship in 2014, like, why would, and then I realized, it's about this kid, and that's a subtle shot saying, hey, come play for us. You're gonna play for a coach that's not going to do that stuff to you. And Garrett Wilson ultimately committed.
He didn't end up taking an official visit to Texas.
And he committed to Ohio State. And the lead recruiter was Zach Smith, the same Zach Smith who is obviously been let go and has been involved in a domestic violence situation with his wife Courtney Smith. And we, allegedly Courtney Smith very close with Michelle Herman, and they were the ones that kind of helped her. And there have been reports that Tom Herman may have convinced her to go forward to the press. And I'm just going to say this. I think that Tom Herman and Urban Meyer cut from the same cloth in terms of that they're sharks. And that's a reason why Texas went after Tom Herman. I'm not saying that he's immoral or he's a bad person, anything like that. You can say those things about Urban Meyer. Obviously, it is what it is over there. I'm not really touching on that. But what I'm saying is this stuff doesn't just come out of thin air when accusations and stuff are being made. Because the reason why I bring this up is because 2 days ago, Ohio State, after everything that's gone down, and they're clearly an evil, malintentious program, but they're a smart program, and they want to win, and that's their priority. They leak a story saying that Tom Herman was with Zach Smith at the strip club, and why would they do that? You know what I mean? Why would they leak something if Tom Herman had nothing to do with the Zach Smith? And some people could say it's subterfuge and they're just trying to divert. And to me, it looks like that. But I think a lot of this ties into the darkness of recruiting and how competitive these coaches are at getting guys and the tactics that get used. So that's just my 2 cents on the Ohio State drama, Texas drama, because, Tom Herman's name has been thrown around a lot in it. Hopefully, that stuff goes away when the season starts and we can focus on football and, we focus on our slate in the Big 12. Ohio State is not on our schedule, and I don't intend to talk about Ohio State again unless we play them in a bowl or something. Yeah. But just wanted to share that theory with you. I think a lot of it does come from the dark side of recruiting. But any final thoughts, man, as we wrap up?
I just can't wait for the season to happen. I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot more.
Yes.
And hopefully not too many negative ones.
I know, dude. But
I'm just excited. I'm excited about college football starting in general. And I just can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Y'all let us know in the comments what you think. Even hit us up with your win-loss predictions. Some new faces that you're excited to see, and we'll be back after the Maryland game just with our thoughts and get into the recap mode of things. But hook 'em.
Take it easy, guys.